up in a church home. We didn't go to church all the time, but we went to the Methodist church when I was young in grade school. And then when I got into middle school and early high school, we went to the Lutheran church. So I went through catechism and that whole thing, but I never really had a relationship with God. I had a sister that was kind of my model of what a relationship with God was about, and I learned a lot from her when I was in high school and in junior high. She did work for Campus Crusade for Christ. So my sister was a big mentor to me as far as what a relationship with Christ and God looked like. And I learned a lot from her, and she was probably instrumental in bringing me to when I accepted Christ. I was 13 years old. We were on a trip to Dallas, Texas, to a spiritual or religious gathering called Expo 72. It was a great experience, and on the way down there when we were camping is when I accepted Christ. My sister, through that organization, used a small book called The Four Laws that helped guide people through the process of accepting Christ in their life. And so I did that. So it was a really neat experience, but when I got back from that trip, I got back with all the same friends that I had, and I was going through a time in my life when I was just starting to experiment with partying and that kind of thing. You know, it's a lot easier when you're in that environment to stay, I guess, to stay close to Christ and with everything, with that relationship and help that grow and everything. But I was young and I wasn't ready, I guess, to fully commit. You know, I still had got him. I definitely felt a difference when I accepted Christ. I felt that his presence, and I felt a change in me. But I also, when I got back home, it was that peer pressure and everything, and I got back with those same kids. And it wasn't until a number of years later till I had a meaningful relationship with Christ. It was so important for that mentorship of my sister going through that time period, and she kept encouraging me, and I kept seeing how God was working in her life. And I saw that how he took care of her. And it just made such an impression on me. I was like, I want that. I wanted that kind of relationship. I got married. We had 3 kids, and I had a relationship with God, but it wasn't as deep as what it is now. And I had to go through some more trials and tribulations and had to learn things the hard way before God brought me to my knees to where I was ready to surrender again. At that time period, I just about got a divorce through that all, but things turned around. Didn't get a divorce. We stayed together for a while longer. I was going to a church. I was involved with the church, trustee, so I was pretty involved. My kid, I had 2 older kids that were involved in the youth group, and so those 2 kids, there's a big difference in how they turned out as far as getting into the partying, the whole partying mode. My youngest, though, went through her high school period when I was partying pretty hard, and we were. And so she ended up being part of her as well. I ended up getting sober, getting in recovery, and that's when I found God again and have a deeper relationship. I had some very impactful things happen when I first got sober, that some imaging and just a powerful spiritual experience that lasted for a while, like a week or so. And from that point, things started to change. My life started to change. And when I was ready to put that kind of stuff down, that's when God was able to start working in my life, I think. You know, I went through some other difficult times. Really, most difficult time in my life is when I separated from my wife again. And this time we didn't get back together, but God was there. He was there the whole time. And I just kept hearing from him that he was going to restore me and my family. And it was very powerful words, and I knew they were from him. It was a dark time for a long period of time, but there was restoration. Even with all the pain and heartbreak there was through all that, I still had this sense of peace in my life. And just the way that I myself handled the whole thing and going through that separation, I never would have acted the way I did without the help of God. You know, I never let anger take over and rule that whole thing, what we were going through. And we still talk today. And that's only because of God so deep in my heart, I think, at that time, and is now. All I could see was pain and uncertainty, and there was so much fear during that time period. I drew on that strength that he gave, and he surrounded me with people that were in recovery, that my support group and people in the church. It was just amazing how he drew me through all that stuff with the people that he surrounded me with. God took a situation where I couldn't see anything positive that was going to be in my future, and showed me all these new things that I could do. And, it's been a wonderful experience, really. I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and that I just kept asking God for the strength to do that. And I know we all go through difficult times. And, just because I got sober didn't mean that life stopped happening. And so I guess that being one of my biggest messages to anybody that is struggling with addiction as well, that there's going to be tough times, even though we are in some type of recovery from that addiction. And that sometimes all we can do is put one foot in front of the other. As long as I had that strength, that relationship with God, I knew I could get through one day at a time, and that he would get me through one day. Everything I've learned in recovery has been a valuable lesson, as well as drawing me to God, trying to make that relationship richer and richer through other avenues, the church, So it's been a great journey.